If you've clicked on this video, I'm guessing that you finished school or you're approaching the end of your school days. In this video, I'm going to be telling you exactly what happens when you finish school, so you're actually prepared for the real world. I'm going to be telling you exactly what your teachers won't tell you and what you need to know beforehand so that you can find success. I want you to use this video as learning ground, so you're perfectly equipped with the skills you need to deal with what life throws at you when you finish school. If this video has interested you, make sure you like and subscribe to show your support, as it really helps the channel out. It also helps my content get to the right people who need to hear this message. Now that's out of the way, let me begin the video. Alright, so you think that once you finish school, everything's happy. Everyone moves on happily and everyone's actually living a happy life. You think that people find success in their own ways and certain people just move on and end up gaining success at some point in the future. You think that you'll stay connected for years and these people that you've known from school will always be people you can connect with later on. But that just simply isn't true, and it's definitely not the case with what I experienced. First and foremost, let me just say, people change in the most horrible ways and people change in the worst ways that you can imagine. For example, that cute girl you know in school will go from being a virgin to having a body count of 4 by the end of summer. She'll become a complete hoe and you won't even be able to recognize who she is. And as for the other people you know from school, some people will just completely vanish. Like, there'll be certain people that you know from school, from your year, from your class, and they'll just completely vanish and they'll just disappear. Like, for example, certain people will go from being in your social circle, like they'll be in your bubble, and then out of nowhere they'll just disappear off the face of the earth and you won't be able to find where they are or what they're doing. It'll kind of just be like they went from something to nothing very quickly. And then you might have people who just spiral down a bad path. Like, for example, with me in my year group, there was always groups of people that would just spiral down a worse path and their life would get inevitably worse. Like, some people would just lose themselves and they'd find themselves unemployed and not even in education anymore. And sometimes you just struggle to realize how they can actually live and how they've actually moved on from school and where they're at now. But the main thing that you'll see is that when people finish school and when school's over, that the amount of people that clutch onto bad habits is really, really bad. Like, the summer after year 11, the summer during year 11, the year 11 summer, I know what I'm talking about. That summer is the most notable time where you'll see people change and you'll see people become who they actually are, because it's almost like a barrier gets lifted. You have more freedom, you finish education, and it's just, you'll really realize who people are, because not only do people get freedom, but they also get a sense of like not needing to act in a certain way or behave in a certain way. They'll just act authentically, and that usually is always bad. From what I've seen, the way people act after they finish school is unheard of, and it's just something that I think is pretty weird. What I'm trying to emphasize in this part is that people will change and they won't be who they were before. Like, for example, it's very, very common for people to be at the top of the mountain and then be at the bottom of the mountain after a few weeks, because you always have these perceptions of people in your year group, your class, as them being higher up, them being popular. But when that summer hits and when people finish school, that's when things really, really change, and that's when people become very, very one-sided. So just when school ends, never think that everyone's an ally, because you think that when you finish school and you have your prom, when you have your end of school day, whatever you call it, the leavers day, that's it. You think that everyone will be fine, you'll get along with everyone. And especially when you're finishing school, you kind of just have mutual respect for everyone around you, because you've kind of gone through this period where you've done exams, you've gone through difficulties, and there's kind of just mutual respect. But just don't think that everyone's your ally. And if anything, certain people become enemies with you for no apparent reason. You'll have no apparent reason to not like someone, but someone will hold a grudge against you for whatever reason, and that's what you need to look out for. So that was number one. Number one was understanding that people will change, and more often than not, it always usually is negative. With me, I'm kind of more of a positive type of guy. I kind of look on the bright side of things. I don't really like to focus on anything negative, but it's just, I think that when it comes to finishing school, you will notice that when people change after that period of when you finished, people do tend to become worse and people do tend to fall off. And it's even the greatest people in your year group, like the top people, they'll always fall off. And at least for me, that's what I've seen. Number two is just genuinely realize that you're on your own in this journey. Genuinely realize that once you finish school, once everyone's settled into their new environments, and once you're no longer in this massive year group, you're genuinely on your own. After some time has passed and you've genuinely done what you've needed to and you're in your new environment, about 80 to 90% of the people will distance themselves from you and you'll distance yourself from them. And this is the thing, right? You might be able to speak to everyone in your year group, like for example, on social media or messages, you might have everyone in your year group's contacts or whatever. But what will happen is you just won't have a reason to speak to them. And not only will you not have a reason to speak to them, but there'll be nothing for you to talk about. And you'll just stop speaking to people because you're just not on the same path anymore. If you choose to go to like college or sixth form or another school or another area, you'll only really speak to the people there. Like, at least from my perspective and my opinion, you'll kind of only really speak to the people in that environment. You won't really venture off and speak to other people, join their groups, unless there's like extended things that you're associated with. Like for example, in my year group, there's always parties and stuff going on. If you know people from like a certain school and you go to parties with them, then you'll know them. But if not, then it kind of really is a dead end. You'll only really speak to people from your year group and people in your social circle. But you might keep a few strong connections, like the people that you genuinely have respect for and people that you're really close friends with. But other than that, you'll just let go of a lot of people. You'll know you're truly on your own because that's what's going to make or break you. You realize that once school's finished and once you're on this path of just growth and development, and when you finish school and you're on a complete new trajectory, you'll realize that you're on your own. And that's either a good thing if you frame it in the right way, or it's a bad thing. And number three is that you'll be given a lot of free time. And once you finish school, you'll realize just how much free time you have. And it's honestly scary. The free time you have is honestly scary. And the reason why I say that is because when you're in secondary, when you're in school, you have this structure. You know what class is which, where you're supposed to go period to, what time this lesson is, what time a lesson on a Friday is, right? You know exactly where you're supposed to go and when. When you have that, things are kind of just in a flow state, like you know exactly where you're going and things just feel like you have purpose in some way. And I think that obviously if you go through the year, you kind of adjust your timetable as well. So you kind of know you kind of understand where you're going and you kind of have like peace that you have direction in terms of what you're doing. And especially if you've got exams at the end of the year, you know that everything's leading up to that. So there's purpose and there's clarity with what you're doing. Like for example, you'll wake up, you'll go to school, you'll come back from school, you'll relax, and then you'll get ready and do it again for like 5 days. And on the weekend, you might do certain things. That structure is basically copied and mimicked for like, it's been like, you've been like that for 4 years, 5 years of your life. Like you've had this structure. When you finish school, all of that just vanishes. All of it just goes completely and you haven't got a structure. Like that structure's gone. It's dissolved. It's like not there anymore. And you'll realize that you basically could do anything. You have all the time in the world and you could basically do anything because of the amount of flexibility you have with your life. And what you'll notice is that people use it in the worst ways possible. People waste their time. People engage in degeneracy. People do all of these other bad habits. I'm not going to really name them because I think you can guess. Alcohol, partying, drugs, casual sex, all of these things is what, and social media as well, that's a big one, that people just engage in during the holidays and once they finish school. Like that is a number one thing that I was going to say, is that people crutch onto these like no other when you finish school. And until you've got to that point, you won't realize what I'm talking about. Like people from the top of your year group will fall off into very bad sports. Like I remember with me, there was this one guy in my year group, well there's a few guys, but there was notably one guy in my year group who was at the top of like my year group in like year 11, year 10. And then after we finished school, he just he just disappeared. Like he fell off, no one spoke to him, and he just gained a really like, not bad reputation, but a really like unnoble reputation, like a dishonorable reputation. And in general, like people use all of their free time once you finish school in degeneracy, partying and all these bad habits. And I just don't want you to go through that. This is a short video and I kind of just wanted to give a realization that most people need to hear, because I haven't really seen many videos like this in this space at all. And when you finish school, things do change a lot. Things undeniably change a lot. And I think it's something that isn't really widely spoken about how much it actually affects people and young teenagers. I just want to emphasize how much things do really change and what impact they actually have. So if I had to summarize, number one is understanding that people will change completely once you finish school. Number two is genuinely realizing that you will be on your own and that you're on this journey by yourself. And number three is you'll be given so much free time. I'm now giving you the 3 things that are the biggest, most significant realizations that you need to know that happen after you finish school. And now I'm hoping that you've gained some awareness as to what you can learn and what you can understand from what I've said. I really hope you've understood this video and the message that I'm trying to convey, because I really think it's an important one, and I really think it's an important message that a lot of people need to hear, especially once they finish school or they're approaching the end of their school days. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to show your support, and always remember this one thing: strive for excellence and great things will come your way.